How's it going, everyone? Now, I've noticed lately that a lot of people are wanting to start to grow their own food and become self-sufficient. And this is great. I absolutely love this and super encourage it. Except most of them seem to be doing it without any preparation at all, going out panic buying a heap of vegetable seedlings and then hoping for the best rather than stopping, doing a bit of research, getting prepared, learning what the best veggies to start growing are, and then going out and buying some seedlings and doing all that. So in this video, I'm going to be covering my top 5 best veggies to start growing. Now, each of these will briefly go over why I think these veggies are the best to start growing with, as well as a few top tips to make sure that they're staying super healthy and you're going to be getting plenty of food from them. Now, the basic criteria of my top 5 is based upon 2 things. So that is ease of growing and also how much food you're going to get per individual plant. So basically ease of growing and productivity. Now, obviously there's going to be, I can only really pick 5. So there's going to be a lot of common veggies that I'll miss, including things that I like growing myself. But I think that these are my top 5 best veggies to grow. So let's get into it. So in no particular order except this first one, because it definitely deserves the number 1 spot, is this little fella behind me right here, and that are tomatoes. Tomatoes are absolutely they probably are the top vegetable that you should start growing. Now, the best thing about these are because they are so easy to grow, you get so much bang for your buck because they're super productive. And then also, there are so many different varieties nowadays that you can grow. So depending on where you are, how much space you have, and also what kind of tomatoes you want, like whether you want big beefsteak sort of tomatoes for preserving or just eating fresh, like nearly a kilo each, or if you want smaller salad, cherry tomatoes. There are so many different types of varieties out there that you can pick to suit you and whatever you want. Now, a few top tips for tomatoes. Number 1, make sure that you plant them in a very fertile soil, so like lots of organic matter and things like that, because they're heavy feeders and they like lots of food in the soil. Second tip is to feed them with some sulfate of potash. Now, this helps to increase the flowering, so therefore you're going to get more fruit, but also helps to thicken the cell walls, which means that they're more resistant to disease. So you want to be adding this about like once every month as soon as you start planting them. So if you want to like give that a bit of a suss out, I've left a link in the description that you can check out if you're after some sulfate of potash. And then the third one is that make sure you give them lots of water. Tomatoes are very thirsty vegetables because obviously the actual fruit, they contain a lot of water, and so in order for the tomatoes to keep producing food for you, you need to make sure that you look after them by giving them plenty of water. The next vegetable you should start growing is silver beet. Now, silver beet is a come and pick again leafy green that can be grown all year round. So it doesn't matter whether you're in winter or summer, it can still be planted and grown and you can get food from it. Now, the best thing about silver beet is because they have such large leaves, they can actually be grown in pretty much a full shade position. So even if you have a little bit of your garden gets no sun at all, you can still plant some silver beet there and you'll be able to grow some food from that otherwise unproductive bit of land. Now, a few top tips for growing silver beet. First one, make sure that you give them plenty of nitrogen. Because they're a very leafy vegetable, they need lots of nitrogen to continue to grow leaves. So make sure that you give them a continual fertilizer of nitrogen, or plant them near a legume such as peas or beans. That way they'll actually receive nitrogen from the bacteria that fix nitrogen in the legumes' roots. They can feed off of that, and there's a bit of companion planting for you. Secondly, make sure that you keep the water up. They actually lose a lot of water through their leaves, even in the shade. So particularly on a sunny day, make sure that you're out there and give them a good drink. And the last top tip for silver beet is make sure that you keep picking them. The more you pick the leaves, the more it's going to grow. That way you also prevent the plant leaves from getting really tough and bitter. So that way you're actually going to enjoy eating them or juicing them or just consuming them better. Now, the next vegetable on my top 5 list is cucumbers. So cucumbers are another crop that just keep on producing food for you. So as long as you keep on picking it, it'll keep on producing it. So nowadays, even though it's known as traditionally it's known as a vegetable that needs a lot of space. Nowadays, there are actually so many varieties where they're very compact, such as the varieties Double Yield and also the Mini Lebanese. They are actually quite compact plants. So even if you're only living in an apartment and you just have a little bit of balcony space with some sun, you can actually grow cucumbers by just growing them in a container and using a trellis to keep it a bit neat and tidier. Now, a few top tips for growing cucumbers. One, make sure that you keep the water up. Obviously, cucumbers, again like tomatoes, contain a lot of water, so they need a lot of water to keep on growing in a healthy way and producing lots of fruit. Second top tip is that make sure that you keep on feeding them again once a month with some sulfate of potash. Just helps to increase the flowering, therefore fruit, and also helps to thicken up those cell walls to make it less susceptible to disease, particularly some mildew such as downy mildew or powdery mildew, which they can be a little bit susceptible to. And the third top tip for growing cucumbers is make sure that you keep on picking them, particularly when they're younger. That way you're going to be harvesting nice, young, tender fruit, which won't be as bitter or won't be as tough. Particularly the skin won't be as tough if you leave it older. And that way as well, it will just help to encourage the plant to keep on producing more fruit. Next one is zucchini. Now this is very similar again to cucumber, except a lot more compact. So as long as you give it some water, give it some love and attention, it'll produce fruit for you. And you can actually harvest so many zucchinis on a single plant. It's kind of ridiculous. So a few top tips for zucchini, and they are exactly the same as cucumber. One, make sure that you keep the water up because they are very high water containing fruit, so make sure that you give them lots of water. Secondly, feed them with some sulfate of potash to really get that extra potassium in its system, so that way it'll produce a lot more flowers and therefore fruit for you. And thirdly, make sure that you keep on picking them continually. The idea behind that continual picking is that really the plant is trying to set seed. That's its natural response, to try and set seed for future generations. But when you're picking the fruit, you're actually removing its seed, so it's got to keep on producing seed in the form of fruit that you can pick. So hey, make sure you keep on picking your zucchinis. And lastly on my list are peas. Now peas are super simple to grow. You can just literally bung a couple seeds in the ground and you're pretty much guaranteed to get some peas as a reward. Now the main reason behind this is because they actually don't really need any fertilizer at all, except maybe a bit of potassium. But because peas are actually a legume, which means that they can actually fix their own nitrogen from the help of some bacteria in their roots. They can fix nitrogen that's in the air and use it in a plant usable form to actually help them grow. So not only that, they're actually adding nitrogen to your soil, which is why you should grow them with leafy greens such as silver beet. Now a few top tips for growing peas. Number one, make sure that you pick them regularly. The more you pick them, the more the plant is going to produce them, which means extra food for you. So don't forget to go out there every day or every couple of days and see if there's any that are to your size and your liking. Secondly, don't over fertilize peas. Now, they produce their own nitrogen, remember, so you don't want to be feeding them, overfeeding them, particularly with nitrogen. Otherwise, it's actually going to hurt the plants and you're going to get less food from it. And thirdly, grow them a lot closer together than any recommendations. So generally on seed packets or plant packets, I recommend growing them 15 centimeters or so apart. I would even go just 5 centimeters apart. So plant them really closely. That way you're going to get utilize the space that you grow them in a lot better. You're going to get a lot more food per square meter or per square foot. And also every week, just go out and plant a few more seeds among the existing plants. That way you're going to get a longer harvest period for your peas. So that is my top 5, but of course I missed out on a lot, so I'm just going to make 2 quick honorable mentions, and they are number 1, kale, and number 2, pumpkins. Now, kale in particular, it's kind of like silver beet, except grows better in the winter, and this produces so many leafy greens for you over the winter time, and there's actually a lot more you can do with them, particularly if you pick them when the leaves are young. They're actually super tender despite any other public conception or any other bad thing you've heard about kale. When you grow it yourself and you pick them young, they're absolutely delicious and you get so much food from it. And the other one, pumpkin. This is so encouraging, particularly as a beginner grower. If you plant pumpkins, you do need a lot of space for these. but they grow literally in front of your eyes. They grow so quickly, and as well, when they start producing fruit, you get a lot from it. And as well, pumpkins, when you pick them right, they can actually be stored for nearly a year, even over a year, if they're stored correctly. So that way you're going to have plenty of fresh pumpkin for you if you grow it well. So there you go, guys. That is my top 5 best veggies to start growing. So hopefully that helps you to feel a bit more prepared and ready to start growing your own foods. If you like that, make sure you check out a lot of my other videos and playlists, which are all particularly designed around helping you to grow your own organic food for as cheap as possible. So I'll leave it there. If you like that, then please hit that like button and give it a thumbs up. If you have any comment suggestions or questions for me, particularly regarding about starting to grow your own food or anything else at all, then leave them in the comment section below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And lastly, if you like that and you want to see more, then make sure you click on my face. That'll be popping up around there very shortly. And make sure as well you hit that bell notification. That way, whenever I post a new video here on my YouTube channel, you'll be one of the first to watch it. So, hope you guys are having a crack of a week and your gardens are booming. And I will catch you all next video. Cheers, guys.